What's up, y'all? Your eyes and your ears don't lie, and had to slide back on and talk about the federal judge that just ordered the closure of Trump's Alligator Alcatraz immigration jail. And finally, you guys are recognizing the rule of law and picking what you took the oath to uphold instead of the fear of this coward-ass pedophile in chief and his regime. Now, under the circumstances that you did it, I'm kind of a little angry about it, but the fact is you did it. So it wasn't for human decency, it wasn't for violation of due process, or any of the things that it should have driven you to act and stop them from detaining these people illegally in Alligator Alcatraz. What it ended up being is you ruled that they need to close this because of the damage that it's doing to the Everglades. I guess the fact is you did it, but I'm a little pissed off to find out that this order basically does nothing more than uphold the basic requirements of legislation designed to fulfill the promises that they weren't going to build on the Everglades and that they weren't going to damage them. Because from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, anybody who's ever tried to build there, they've been blocked because of the damage that it would do to the Everglades, and it's a protected environmental area. So the judge ruled essentially, I'll read it to you, that no further construction at the site can take place, and she ruled that there must be no further increases in the number of detainees currently held there, and that's estimated to be 700, and after the 60-day period, all construction materials, fencing, generators, and fixtures that made the site a detention camp must be removed. Now, this is a significant victory for a coalition of environmental groups and Native American tribes that sued the state of Florida and the federal government. So it is a landmark victory for the Everglades, since countless Americans who believe that this wilderness should be protected and not exploited, which I'm happy with the result, but it's still another slap in the face where we don't care about humanity and decency and none of that due process. We care about the environment and the Everglades strictly because it's the Everglades. If you would have did this shit to people somewhere else, you could keep on doing it. And I'll repeat it again. I'm not a fan of illegal immigration, but there are some caveats. And the caveat is, these same people that you're picking up, that you're going and arresting from agricultural places, construction places, places of work, and outside of Home Depot and all that, we have a process, and I wish that these people would have followed it so they wouldn't be in this situation. But these are also the same people that in 2020, when you needed them the most, you declared all these people essential workers so you could use them again for your needs. They were essential workers then. So if you declared them essential workers then, why weren't they given citizenship? Anybody ever asked that? Because while we weren't going to work and we were working remote and we couldn't go out to certain places, these same workers were doing the same work they're doing now. Building houses to house America. Working in agricultural to feed America. Still outside of Home Depot and still in these places doing construction. Still at car washes. Because some of them you allowed to be essential. And some of the business they considered essential was outrageous. I look at some of these states where when I was looking at some of the results of the Google search and some of the AI I was looking at, some of these states, you had titty bars as essential businesses because they sold food. So if you were a strip club and you sold food, they considered you essential. So you guys are full of shit. And it's not about anything other than due process. Because if you went to immigration court, you had your day in court, an order was given for you to leave and you didn't leave, and you built a life decades later with the family and all this here, I'm empathetic and I feel sorry for you, but you had your day in court. My argument is you're not giving these people the day in court. If you were on a removal, because a lot of people have been asked to leave, you went through the process and you lost and you didn't leave. I'm not defending that. You chose to stay here. I'm looking at these cases where these people have been in the country since the late 90s, and you went to immigration court. You lost, and then you later on had a family. You found a woman, you married a woman, then you had kids here. You put yourself in this situation. That doesn't negate that you're owed due process and human decency with it. But let's not forget that 85% of the people that they're rounding up do not have criminal records. And of that 15% that do have criminal records, shit varies from misdemeanor drug possession to DUIs. That 15% ain't a bunch of murderers and gangbangers. So y'all need to quit the bullshit and uphold the law and due process. And there's no argument. If they're getting their days in court where you can plead your case, there's no argument if you get to go through due process and you lose. We're not saying everybody should just get a pass. We're saying that what happened to due process? Because that shit that he's doing, violating constitutional rights and due process, that's branching out into other areas of society that don't just affect immigration. This is where he's starting to see how far he can go. But it's branching out into other areas. And one day it could be you.